So, you're taking great photos and videos with your smartphone and you're wondering if you can sell them and make some money. Stay with me and let's find out. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Nice to see you all again, and if this is your first time here, my name is Luka and I'm a full-time stock photographer and videographer. And if you want to learn some tips and tricks about stock photography, subscribe to my channel for even more videos like this. I've been asked a lot of times if images shot on your smartphone are good enough to upload to stock sites and make some money. So let's talk about that and also about things that you should know when you're taking photos with your smartphone. Okay, there are quite some reasons why you would shoot something with your smartphone, not your mirrorless or DSLR camera. First of all, of course, is if you don't have any other camera gear and all you have is your smartphone and you just love taking photos with it. Second thing is that smartphone is always at hand, so if something unexpected comes, you can always take it out and shoot some photos. Another reason is that people will find it less intimidating if you point your cell phone to them instead of a big camera with a huge lens on it. I'm talking about random people on the street, for example, not models that you hire for a shoot, of course. Another situation where mobile phones can be very handy are locations where big DSLR cameras are not allowed, but you can always have your phone with you. And of course, these little devices can take pretty decent images and videos these days. So, can you make money with them? Okay, let me tell you a quick story. Back in 2017 we had a super great family photo shoot in a very nice looking house with a pool in Australia, just a few kilometers out of Sydney. And after a long 8 hours of shooting and cleaning the house after the shoot, we were sitting on the sidewalk in front of the house and waiting for our Uber. Then I realized that we hadn't taken any shots of empty location or any exterior shots of the house. Of course we were exhausted, we had all the camera gear packed up in our backpacks already, but I still wanted to have at least few images of the house exterior. And I took out my iPhone, it was iPhone 6 at that time with 8 megapixel camera, and just took a few photos of the house. Then I edited 3 of them and uploaded them together with other images from that shoot. And actually those 3 images together brought me around $450 in 2.5 years, and one of them is my 4th bestseller from that particular shoot. And I think that's pretty good for a phone photo of a house, right? The image is nothing special and the quality is not that good, but from this story we can see that it's not the quality that sells, but the content. If the client will like the image, he will buy it no matter which device it was shot on. One thing you need to remember here is that stock sites require property releases for that type of images. That means you can't just go out and shoot every house in your street because images will get rejected without property release. Okay, so yeah, you can definitely sell your phone photos and videos and make some money with them. So let me give you some advice on what I think smartphones are great for. Firstly, shots without people where you don't need or don't want shallow depth of field, like nature, landscape shots, cityscapes, flat lays, food for example. Those can work great with mobile phones. I can't say that you will make tons of money with those, but they will sell from time to time, so if you have such shots, just upload them. Secondly, editorial content. If you shoot a street scene or you come across some interesting unexpected events like protests or carnival or hurricane, anything you think is newsworthy, you can upload that as editorial content. Those images are usually used in newspapers or web pages, so they don't need to be top quality, and your phone photos will be more than good for that. And if you find a hot topic here, I think you can make a nice income from those. Third thing that smartphones do very good is video. If you're shooting video, smartphones are great for that. Most of them are shooting in 4K with 60 frames per second these days, and the quality is good enough. You can film some nice real-time or slow motion shots and sell them. Furthermore, you can also shoot time lapses. For example, if you're at the beach enjoying the sunset, you can easily set up your phone to shoot a time-lapse and just upload it. Or maybe you can shoot a time-lapse out of your car while driving. There are a lot of possibilities. What I would definitely not shoot on mobile phone are planned photo shoots with models. Because if you're paying the models, or even if you're just shooting your friends and you prepare and plan everything, you obviously want to get the best quality out of that photo shoot. And despite the fact that mobile phone cameras can take stunning images and videos these days, they still have some limitations compared to even entry-level DSLRs or mirrorless cameras. And those limitations are even more obvious when you're shooting lifestyle scenes with people. So let's check which those are, and let's talk about some things that you have to take into consideration when shooting with your mobile phone. Most of these limitations come from the size of the camera sensor. Because of the size of the smartphone, of course, camera sensors in these devices are very small. Compared to a full-frame sensor in a professional cameras, for example, smartphone camera sensors are around 50 times smaller. And let me tell you about consequences of that. First thing is low light performance. Of course, if the light is good, if you're shooting in bright daylight conditions, images shot on smartphones can look great, but as soon as the quality of light is lower, you will see the weakness of a small sensor. In low light, smartphones have two options. One is to increase ISO, which will result in grainy images, especially on small sensors like those in smartphones. Even if we increase ISO by a small amount, it can introduce a lot of grain to your image. Or the other thing it can do is to extend shutter time, and the result of that can be a blurry image. Also, native camera apps can have some tools to enhance your low light images, like noise reduction, but if there's too much noise reduction applied, your image can look even worse. You can avoid that to some degree by using some apps and shooting in RAW, but let's leave that for next week's video, so be sure to come back to watch it. So my first advice for shooting with your phone is try to get as much light as possible and try to avoid very dark scenes. Okay, let's move to the second thing, which is dynamic range. So the more dynamic range the camera has, more details there will be in the darkest and the brightest areas of an image. Smartphone cameras are not one of those devices with high dynamic range. That's why if you're shooting something in the shadow on a sunny day, the sky in the background will be overexposed, usually without any details in it. You can avoid that by underexposing your image and brightening shadow parts in post, but when you do that, there will be a lot of noise in those shadowed areas. But when I'm shooting the same scene with my full frame camera, I can underexpose an image quite a lot, leave the shadows in post-production, and the image will be totally fine. So my second advice is, in contrasty scenes, decide which part of an image is more important, highlights or shadows, and expose the image with that in mind. So if the shadow areas are important, overexpose the sky in the background, so the shadowed parts will be exposed correctly. But if the sky is important, then underexpose shadow areas, so the sky will be exposed correctly. Next thing that's connected to a small camera sensor is depth of field. If you're shooting with your phone, everything will be sharp. You can't get that nice background blur or bokeh that you can get with the full frame camera. Of course, most phones these days have portrait mode, where you can blur the background, but the only thing portrait mode is good for are portraits. In that case it can work great, but also there it can be weird on the edges. And for example, you can't use burst mode in combination with portrait mode, so just try to capture a biker riding a bike towards you. I don't think you'll be very successful at that. And one more phone camera limitation that's not connected to camera sensor are lenses. On smartphones you can have 1, 2 or 3 different focal lengths and you're limited on using those. So you can shoot an object from a long distance, for example. But with a DSLR or mirrorless camera you have a ton of options. You can choose between wide, narrow, telephoto, macro, tilt shift lenses and so on. So yes, smartphone cameras are very convenient and can take great photos and videos, and you can make some money with those, but you have to have those limitations in mind when you're shooting. If you want to level up your phone photos and videos, be sure to come back next week and watch my upcoming video on that. And if you want to learn more about stock photography, click on one of these videos on the screen right now. If you find this video useful, hit that like button, and if you want to learn more, subscribe to my channel and also hit the bell so you'll be notified about my new videos. Thanks again for being here, and I will see you in the next one.